with the AC off.
Thank you. Before I start, I'd like to thank IDSA for the hospitality and excellent treatment we've got so far. My topic, before I delve into it, just like to bring some factual information to light. The Global Peace Index. This is an index which some of the world's leading think tanks come up with every year. We have also the Economist newspaper, rather the magazine's intelligence unit, also contributing to it. So the 2014 Global Peace Index survey has ranked Bhutan 16th out of 162 countries, and we've above countries like Singapore and Germany as well. So the two important criteria, among other criteria, is transition to democracy and also foreign relations with neighboring countries. So the paradox is that Bhutan was an absolute monarchy a few years back, and in terms of foreign relations, we have China in the north and India in the south, and this region is known to be very volatile. So the other ranking I wanted to bring to your attention is, and 16 is also the highest in South Asia as well, is the Transparency International ranking in terms of corruption. And here Bhutan, at the start of democracy, we were ranked 45 out of 180 countries. And now we are ranked 31, which is again the highest in South Asia and one of the highest in the Asia-Pacific, Asia region. So just to let you all know that in terms of how Bhutan's democracy is doing so far, and also the role that the Bhutanese media is playing in it. I'll start with the background of the Bhutanese media. The Bhutanese media, like any other media in a new democracy, started off as mainly a developmental media, reporting on government activities, and this started off in the 1960s, where Bhutan's formal development process started. And it could have remained as such, as it remains in many countries around the world, where you have monarchies like in the Arab states in the Middle East and so on. But here, the monarchy in Bhutan decided to start a process of decentralization and democratization. And as for that process, the media was a very important tool to be used in that. So the state-owned media, which is Kunsal and BBS, Kunsal being the national paper and BBS being the state broadcaster, were delinked from the government in 1992, and they were given a lot of freedom. And from 2006 onwards, we had the establishment of private media. And the changes that this delinking of the state media from the government and the establishment of private media from 2006 onwards brought about in Bhutan's democratic evolution was very important. And in 2008, I have to speak a bit about the role of the private media. When the private media came into Bhutan, it broke the monopoly of the government media. There was more critical, more investigative journalism being done. And in terms of the real evolution of the private media happened during the democratic process, which was the 2008 election campaign. And during that campaign, prior to that, if a reporter went to interview a minister, let's say, so the reporter would be more like a stenographer, as earlier one of the speakers mentioned. So the minister would read out a statement and would ask the reporter, what did I say on that line? Can you correct that comma, something like that. But in the 2008 election process, the power equation changed overnight, because these formerly very powerful, some of them aristocratic ministers, they had to go around in the most remote areas of Bhutan begging for votes, because a lot of the former ministers joined politics. And the people realized the power is with them. And in that process, the media, we also got empowered quite a lot. So a very timid media, from 2006 onwards, the process started, but 2008, the culmination, overnight, the equations changed, and we became more confident and we became more critical. After 2008, the media played two important roles, I would say. One was in policy formulation, and the other was fighting corruption. In terms of policy formulation, I think like in India, in Bhutan, one of the most popular news topics is a civil servant's pay hike. And previously in Bhutan, where the civil service is the main sector, these pay hikes was decided by the government in a fairly, as per their own wishes. But this time around, the pay commission's report was leaked out by the media, and overnight there was pandemonium in the country because the pay commission had recommended the highest pay hikes for the senior civil servants and ministers, which the commission members represented, and a lower pay hike for the majority of civil servants. So when we brought this out, there was a lot of pandemonium, and for the first time in Bhutan's history, a pay commission government report had to be rejected with popular opinion. I mean, for India and other countries, this is not a big deal, but in Bhutan, coming out of an absolute monarchy, it was a big deal for us. So we also influenced taxation policies, and all of this could happen because being new, and the government, you must remember, the media was not new. Even the government was new in dealing with the media, and you had an elected government. So I think we got a lot of impact that way as well. And we changed it. The government was planning, as per its GNH policy back then, to tax all junk food. They wanted to tax Coke, tax burgers, tax everything, because they felt that the Bhutanese population shouldn't be subject to unhealthy food. So we brought out a lot of stories against that. We leaked information on that. And overnight, again, there was a huge public outcry from small shops, small businesses. Again, I think a week later, the whole policy had to be rolled back. We've had impact also in terms of the right to information bill. The government was least committed to that, the previous government. But the media, we kept the pressure up, and now we have the RTI bill in parliament, which is quite similar to the Indian RTI law. So in terms of policy, we've had a lot of impact. I'll get to fighting corruption. In terms of fighting corruption, I'd like to give a couple of examples of my own experiences in fighting corruption through the media. And this was again quite unique in Bhutan, because Bhutan, though we don't have pervasive corruption like in other South Asian countries, you won't have a traffic cop asking you for a bribe, all that, but there is high-level policy corruption where commissions and kickbacks are there. So in terms of that, a country where even a mid-level bureaucrat, it is difficult to prosecute in the earlier system, we came to a system where, because of stories in the media, we had 2 ministers getting convicted in court and barred from politics. We had a land case where 60 top and influential bureaucrats, ministers, senior judges had to give land back, and were also held, the court held them guilty as well. So the media has been having a lot of impact in terms of policy, in terms of fighting corruption. And we've also had a partnership with the New Delhi media here in terms of the story, we called it the Bhutan lottery scam. The Bhutan lottery was significant because in states like Kerala and West Bengal, it's the most popular form of lottery. The business per year comes up to 25,000 crores at that time. And the lottery was run by the Bhutan government as per mutual trade agreement. And we found that there was a lot of leakages in between, and people on both sides of the border were getting ripped off. And we did a story, and the eventual impact was an audit investigation, and the whole lottery was shut down. And we had a very active collaboration with the media in West Bengal and Kerala and New Delhi. And so it was a cross-border collaboration, and it also played impact in the Kerala elections, where you had the communists facing off the Congress, and I think the communists lost by 2 seats or something like that. So the lottery factor also had a major impact on the domestic elections over there, and where Bhutan lottery was quite big in Kerala. So those kind of interesting collaborations also we've had. And in terms of democratic culture, I think this is the other unsaid and unstated but very present impact of the Bhutanese media. Because I think democracy is not about just elections, and it's not just about having members of parliament and creating laws through parliament. But I think democratic culture is down to the ordinary citizen level. So basically, I think the fear has to go from the mind. I think that was a big challenge, because even though we were given a democracy, there was a lot of fear, a lot of apprehension, a lot of lack of confidence. And whenever public meetings were called, and any government minister or even a bureaucrat say any questions, there were no questions, no doubts. So a lot of bad laws and policies were coming out. But eventually the media, because of our critical stories, because of our critical stance, people started losing their fear. And now we have a question where we have a situation where people are more open, they're able to voice out. We also have a situation where people themselves have become more tolerant of criticism, because now we're able to criticize each other more frequently, and there's a high tolerance for it. In terms of challenges, I think the story is not all rosy and green, the media does have serious challenges, because once you do tough stories, I think for a while the government took it lying down, the previous government, but after a while they started getting back. And how did they get back? The majority of advertisement revenue, as in many of the smaller South Asian countries, is from the government. So they started curtailing advertisement, and they started using economic embargo as a tool to try and contain that. But it hugely backfired, and along with the other policy mistakes and so on and so forth, the 2013 elections basically showed that Bhutanese people are serious about democracy, and again, for the first time in the world's smallest opposition party of 2 MPs won a landslide victory, and we had 32 MPs sitting in the parliament. So, and there also the media, according to several commentators, the Bhutanese media played a very important role in highlighting the failures, the deficiencies of the previous government. We highlighted the positives as well, but I think the negative outweighed the positives for many. In terms of, since the whole conference is about a South Asian regional dialogue and role of media in promoting understanding, I can delve a bit on that as well. In terms of the role of the Bhutanese media and foreign policy and defense, I think if I can focus on a specific issue, I think in terms of our relationship with India, the Bhutanese media and also the Bhutanese politics, if you look at it, perhaps Bhutan is the only country where we don't have anti-India politics or anti-India media. I think for smaller countries, it's very easy to blame your domestic problems and domestic woes by raising a foreign bogey, especially if you're small and you have a huge neighbor. So instead of turning that into a weakness, I think Bhutan has learned to turn that into a strength. We haven't, we've dealt with our own problems, we've had our own problems, no doubt, but we haven't blamed that on anyone else. And we've looked at a big neighbor in the south, and we decided that it is a more of an opportunity than a challenge. And I think Bhutan's relationship with India in that aspect, through the politics, through media, I think has been quite successful, because just to give an example of hydropower, I have to apologize to my friends in Nepal, from Nepal in advance, but if you look at hydropower, I think the first proposal for making hydropower projects was sent to Nepal before Bhutan was ever thought of. But because there was such strong anti-India politics and I think jingoistic anti-India media, the proposal was a dead duck in the water before it even started. So what did Bhutan do? Bhutan stepped in, and our government went there and said that our doors are open, and now we've, I think Nepal is stuck at 680 megawatts with regular power cuts. Bhutan, we've built 1400 megawatts, and we are building 10,000 more with 3,000 under active construction. So I think there is, in terms of the media, and I think we can play a positive role in enhancing relations. And also in terms of, I think, foreign policy. The Bhutanese media, which essentially stayed away from foreign policy in the past, is now getting more actively involved in foreign policy, defense and strategic affairs. We are raising more questions on our boundary negotiations with China. We are raising more questions on various aspects of our foreign policy. And we're getting more involved. We are even advising the government through editorials and through opinion pieces. And I think Bhutanese foreign policy and defense is very realistic. There's no jingoism, there's no siege mentality, which again South Asian countries, smaller South Asian countries can fall prey to. I think it's a very determined and disciplined nationalism and foreign policy that we keep, where we don't bedevil anybody or where we don't portray ourselves as a victim as well. And I think that process, the monarchy has had a very important role in playing, in laying down a very stable framework. And I think I'll keep it at that. Thank you very much.